Sun TV.
In fact, instead of Allah, you worship idols, and you invent a lie. Indeed, those whom you worship besides Allah have no control over your provision. So seek all your provision from Allah, and worship Him, and thank Him, and to Him ye shall be brought back.
Hi everyone. I was recently going through clearing my paperwork and I actually found my first CV, and I thought it'd be a good time for me to share my CV tips that I've learned over 20 years plus of me working, and I want to go through everything line by line. So this is exactly the same sort of format that I'm using in my CV, and this is what it sort of looks like in a nutshell. And I'm now going to go through everything line by line. If you have any questions, please comment. And if you know me personally, because I will be sharing this on my personal networks, please reach out on WhatsApp or give me a ring and I'll be more than happy to help you. So I hope this helps. And just again to reiterate, I'm sort of giving you my 20 years experience of my CV, which has changed, I would reckon, more than 40 times, 40 or 50 times, and have had input from many trained people, who've given me advice, and they've ripped my previous CV. So this CV is the best that I can have it at. Okay, so let's start. So the first thing is back when CVs used to, well, when I was working on CVs, my first CV actually had the word CV. That's no longer needed now. So you put in your first name and your surname. It's best to sort of keep it as short as possible. So, middle names and other sort of, names, they're not as good. It's best to keep it nice and short as possible. Put in your mobile number, put in your email address, put in your LinkedIn URL. And one of the tips, if I just come back to the email address, so if you have like a very wacky sort of personal email address, it's best to replace that with something like your first name, surname, and maybe some numbers or something, just to keep it more professional. And with LinkedIn, you can, what LinkedIn does is when you sort of sign up with them, they give you a very random long username. So what you can actually do is you can actually then edit your sort of URL within LinkedIn to get it to a shorter sort of URL. So you could try and find something which is your first name and then like a hyphen, surname, and you might have to put some numbers in at the end or something if it isn't a popular name. Okay, you put in your address, and then I then have some various sections. So the first section that I've got is a personal profile. And here I'm actually highlighting sort of how many years industry experience I have in whatever, projects or programs, in whichever sort of sectors you work in. And then the next sort of line has what degrees or qualifications you actually hold. So I've sort of just kept it, everything in the CV is obviously generic because your CV is going to be different and you're going to tailor it to obviously what your experience is. So that's the first sort of profile. So that's basically distilling all of your CV into just 2 sentences. Right. The next section is key skills. So here, for whatever job you are sort of applying for, you sort of look at the key skills which are sort of within the job description, for example, or within the job title, and then you sort of put them here. So if, for example, if you're applying for a permanent job, you would go through the job description and you would then start copying and pasting the skills and putting them in here. And so I like the sort of 3x3 format. So 3 bullet points on each sort of row. So you've got 9 sort of skills, which is, more than enough to showcase what you can bring. Okay. And if you are applying for like a contract sort of job, again, if you sort of have, again, if you the thing is, the main thing you have to understand with a CV is that it takes a lot of time to actually look at what you're bringing to the table, what you're bringing to the employer. So that's so you need to sort of put in all your skills, right? The next section is key achievements. So throughout your history, if you've been working, what are the top 3 things that you feel are the best that you've achieved? Now, I'll go through the achievements in this section over here. So they're just going to be the top 1, top 2, top 3 achievement that you've achieved, okay? So the next sections for each job, you would then have your employment history. So you'd have your job title, you'd have the company name, the city you worked in, and which country it is, and then the month and the year to the month and year. So for example, let's say if you're working on a job, obviously you would put in present in the to section, and the month I would just keep it to something like, abbreviate it. So instead of writing August 2010, you could just write AUG 2010. Okay, so now I'm going to go through my sort of bullet points of how to write an achievement. So the first thing is don't include a generic job description bullet point. Show what value you have brought to the role. The second is ensure the same font size is used throughout the document for visual consistency, because your CV is a reflection on who you are, so you need to look as professional as possible. Number 3 is don't mention hobbies, interests, and referees. Then you've got here is keep the majority of your achievements to 1 bullet point instead of a paragraph. So sometimes when I'm sort of writing an achievement, if I can't fit it to 1 bullet point, I actually get it to 2 bullet points. But 95% of my sort of achievements, they're all 1 bullet point. The next thing is to try and keep the CV as short as possible. So don't go more than 2 or 3 pages. What you can do is you can put in your footer of your CV, you can put in that your full CV is available on LinkedIn. Okay. The next thing is to quantify and be specific. So use numbers, e.g. increased sales by 25% instead of just writing increased sales. So you need to put in some metrics to help justify what you're talking about. Every word needs to fight for space on your CV. So when I'm writing a point on the bullet point, if a word is too long, I then use the thesaurus, which is built into Microsoft Word, just to help find shorter words, which help convey the same meaning. Next is use past tense English for old jobs that you've done, and use present tense English for your current job. Next is keeping previous CV drafts in folders. So what I do is I have CV drafts which are in folders which are named by the month and year. So for example, January 2023, April 2023, or you can have version 0.1, etc., etc. And you can put in, and the next point is things like trained, educated, mentored others, getting a measurable, quantifiable result or benefit. Next thing is reorganize something to make it work better, developed, implemented new procedures and systems. Next is identified a problem and solved it, e.g. come up with a new idea that improved things. Next is worked on special projects, contributed to good customer services. Next is promotions. So if you've been promoted from one level to another, that needs to go on as well as an achievement. Completed important projects on time and within budget. Increased sales revenues figures by such and such percentage. Saved money, time, or both by coming up with efficient methods and tools. Elected or volunteered to do or lead something or someone, e.g. teams or committees or charities, because this shows a get up and go attitude and a proactive personality. Participated in the organization of fun fairs, open days, etc. Use different initial words at the start of each bullet point instead of just using, for example, the word create. So you created this document, or created this report, or created this graph, or this presentation. You can use, so this was going back to my other tip earlier on about the thesaurus. So you can use some words like author, designed, produced, initiated. Full CV on your LinkedIn profile, and also make different tailored CV versions if you are multi-job qualified. So what you need to do is, this goes again back to my earlier point of, keeping your CV to just 2 or 3 pages. Even if you have 6 or 7 or more pages worth of content, you need to really understand that the recruiter doesn't really have that much time to, go through your document. And you need to put in your most important and most recent stuff at the start. And your full CV, by all means, put it on your LinkedIn profile. And then different, so everything that I'm going through here, you can, if you are, for example, if you apply for more than one type of job, so you might apply for, let's say, 3 or 4 types of jobs, what you can do is you can have one CV optimized for job 1, another CV, which is totally rewritten, by the way, optimized for job 2, same for job 3, same for job 4, and then a 5th CV, which is a generic sort of CV. Now, when you're optimizing for everything, so when I say optimize, what I mean is that your bullet points might just need to be reordered. Your skills, which I mentioned above, the 9 skills in the bullets, they will be different for each job. And so things will look a little bit more, tailored, especially with the qualifications, which I'll go in a second. Okay. The next is proofread your CV and spell check the final draft, because spelling errors look unprofessional. So the whole purpose of a CV is to get you an interview. So the recruiter needs to look at your CV and get you into the interview. When you get to the interview, that's when you need to then have your interview skills, which you then need to get the job. So this CV is just a stepping stone. So if you have spelling errors and your font sizes are different and the fonts are different and there are different colors and it's a bit too busy, you're using sort of wacky sort of bullet point icons, whatever, I've seen so many bad examples. So it just makes you look very bad. So you need to be very consistent. Okay. Coming on to the next section, professional qualifications. So I've again got a 3x3 matrix. You might have a bigger matrix, you might have a smaller one, depending on what level of career you're in. But again, what I've done is I've just put in which year you attained the qualification, what was the name of the qualification, and who was the training provider. So sometimes the training provider is half as important as the actual qualification, because the training provider is a well-known brand or industry leaders in their sort of sector. So that's quite important to just mention their name, just to help give you sort of more weight. And also here's a good place to put in awards if you have been awarded anything by your employer or elsewhere. Again here, adding in, this is the professional memberships section. So again, it helps just to sort of show which associations you are members of at which level. So you could be an associate level, a professional level, depending on your field. Again, it just helps you to look more professional. And the last section here is education. So if you've been to university, if you've been to college, if your school sort of grades and subjects. Right, so, and then the last section here is references available upon request. So there's no need to put in your referees. What you need to do is you need to just put that clause in, and you'll be providing references available. So that is a tour of how to create a CV. As I said, that's exactly the same standard that I'm using, and I look forward to your comments. Thank you.